Tess Matthews finally lands the design project of her dreams, only to discover its lead investor is Hunter Voss, the man whose cruel words once broke her spirit. Has he truly changed, or is history doomed to repeat itself? Before we get into the story, comment below where in the world you are watching from today. The morning sun shone through the large windows of Tess Matthews' downtown Austin office. At 28, she had built her interior design business from nothing. Matthews' design was finally getting attention, and her phone wouldn't stop ringing. "I need those fabric samples by noon," Tess said, tucking her phone between her ear and shoulder while sorting through sketches on her desk. Her assistant, Jade, nodded and quickly wrote it down. "And don't forget to confirm the meeting with the Perez family. They're our biggest residential client this month," Tess added. When Jade left, Tess sank into her chair and took a deep breath. Success felt good but exhausting. She glanced at the framed photo on her desk, her smiling with her Aunt Maxine at the opening of her first office space 2 years ago. "You did it, baby girl," Aunt Maxine had said that day. "Just remember what I always told you. Never let a man define you." Those words had been Tess's guiding light since she was 12, when her parents died in a car accident and Aunt Maxine took her in. They were words she lived by, especially after what happened 3 years ago. The memory still stung. That fancy investor dinner she'd been invited to as the up-and-coming designer to watch. The expensive wine. The rich, entitled men laughing too loudly. And then Hunter Voss, handsome, wealthy, and completely unaware. She could hear him talking to his friends at the next table. "I don't date black women. No shade. Just not attracted to them." Those words had cut through the restaurant noise like a knife. Tess had frozen, her wine glass halfway to her lips. The other men had laughed or looked uncomfortable, but no one had challenged him. Tess never forgot his face. Hunter Voss, the golden boy of Austin's venture capital scene. Old money, expensive suits, and apparently a narrow mind to match his narrow dating preferences. She'd walked out without saying a word, but she'd made a promise to herself. She would never let someone like him make her feel small again. The phone on her desk rang, pulling her from the memory. "Tess Matthews," she answered. "Ms. Matthews, this is Caroline Winters from Ecolux Developments." Tess sat up straighter. Ecolux was behind the most exclusive new hotel project in Austin, an eco-friendly luxury hotel that was getting national attention. "We've reviewed your portfolio, and we'd like to offer you the position of lead designer for our new hotel project." Tess nearly dropped the phone. This was it, the breakthrough her company needed. "I'm honored, Ms. Winters. I'd love to take on the project." "Wonderful. We have our first development meeting tomorrow at 10 a.m. I'll email you the details." After hanging up, Tess couldn't contain her excitement. She called Aunt Maxine immediately. "Auntie, you won't believe it. I got the Ecolux Hotel project." "I knew you would, baby girl." Aunt Maxine's voice was warm with pride. "God doesn't bring you this far to leave you." "This could put Matthews' design on the map nationally," Tess said. "No more scraping for clients, no more having to prove myself twice as hard." "You just keep being you," Aunt Maxine said. "Remember what I always say. Never let a man define you." Tess finished with a laugh. "Don't worry, Auntie. No man is going to distract me from this opportunity." The next morning, Tess dressed carefully in a crisp white blazer over a blue dress that complemented her skin tone. She gathered her portfolio and sketches, rehearsing her pitch in her head. The Ecolux offices occupied the top floor of a sleek downtown building. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a stunning view of Austin's skyline. Tess stepped off the elevator, feeling confident and ready. "Miss Matthews, welcome," Caroline Winters greeted her. "Everyone's already in the conference room. Let me introduce you." The large conference room buzzed with conversation. Men and women in expensive suits clustered around a long table strewn with blueprints and documents. "Everyone, this is Tess Matthews, our lead designer for the project," Caroline announced. Tess smiled as she scanned the faces around the table. Her smile froze when her eyes landed on a familiar face at the far end, Hunter Voss. He looked exactly as she remembered him. Perfectly styled dark hair, sharp jawline, tailored suit, but now his eyes were wide with recognition and something else. Surprise, discomfort. "You," Tess said flatly before she could stop herself. The room went quiet. Hunter's face shifted from surprise to an unreadable expression. "Me," he answered, trying not to stare too long. Caroline looked between them, confused. "Do you two know each other?" Tess recovered quickly, her professional mask sliding back into place. "We've crossed paths before. Hunter is one of our principal investors," Caroline explained. "He's been instrumental in getting this project off the ground." Tess nodded, her mind racing. Of all the projects in Austin, she had to land the one backed by Hunter Voss. "Don't worry," she said to Hunter with a dry smile. "You won't have to date me. Just pay me." A few people chuckled awkwardly, not understanding the reference. Hunter's face flushed. "Ms. Matthews comes highly recommended," he said, his voice controlled. "I'm looking forward to seeing her vision for the project." The meeting began, and Tess forced herself to focus. This was her chance, and she wasn't going to let Hunter Voss ruin it. She presented her initial concepts with confidence, avoiding looking directly at him. "I envision spaces that honor both luxury and sustainability," she explained. "Natural materials, local artisans, and designs that tell the story of Texas without the cliches." "I love it," Caroline said when Tess finished. "This is exactly the fresh perspective we need." Others around the table nodded in agreement. Hunter remained silent, his eyes never leaving Tess. After the meeting, Tess gathered her materials quickly, hoping to escape without another encounter. No such luck. "Ms. Matthews," Hunter's voice came from behind her. "Could I have a word?" Tess turned slowly, her face neutral. "Mr. Voss, I wanted to say your presentation was excellent," he said stiffly. "Your reputation is well deserved." "Thank you," Tess replied. "If that's all about what you said earlier," he continued, lowering his voice. "I understand why you said it. I remember that night." Tess's eyes flashed. "Do you? That's interesting. Most people don't remember their casual racism." Hunter flinched. "I didn't think anyone heard." "That doesn't make it better," Tess cut him off. "Look, Mr. Voss, I'm here to do a job I'm very good at. Let's keep this professional." Before he could respond, Tess walked away, her head high. Her heart pounded in her chest, but she wouldn't let him see how much that memory still bothered her. Back at her office, Jade noticed her mood immediately. "What happened? Did the meeting go badly?" Tess shook her head. "The meeting went fine. But guess who's one of the principal investors?" "Who?" "Hunter Voss." Jade's eyes widened. "The guy from that dinner. The one who said, 'That's the one,'" Tess confirmed. "What are you going to do? Back out?" Tess looked up sharply. "Absolutely not. This is too important for my business. I'm not letting him chase me away from the biggest opportunity of my career." "That's my girl," Jade said with a smile. That evening, Tess drove to Aunt Maxine's house for their weekly dinner. The small but well-kept home in East Austin was Tess's sanctuary. The smell of Aunt Maxine's famous jambalaya greeted her as she walked in. "There's my superstar!" Aunt Maxine hugged her tightly. At 65, she was still full of energy, her grey-streaked hair styled in neat braids. Over dinner, Tess told her about the meeting and Hunter. "Of all the men in Austin," she sighed, "why did it have to be him?" Aunt Maxine's eyes narrowed. "That's the fool who said he doesn't date black women?" "The very same. And now he has to work with the most talented black woman in Austin." Aunt Maxine laughed. "God has a sense of humor." "It's not funny, Auntie. He makes me so angry." "Good. Use that energy in your work. Show him exactly what he's missing." Aunt Maxine's expression turned serious. "But be careful, baby girl. A man can learn. But make sure he ain't just learning you to feel better about himself. Trust me, dating Hunter Voss is the last thing on my mind." But that night, as Tess drove home, Hunter's face kept appearing in her thoughts. The way he looked at her during the meeting, not with the dismissiveness of 3 years ago, but with something like admiration, maybe even regret. No, she told herself firmly. This was strictly business. She wouldn't let Hunter Voss into her head or her heart. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of meetings, site visits, and design work. Despite her initial reservations, Tess had to admit that the Ecolux team respected her vision. Even Hunter kept his distance, speaking to her only when necessary about budget concerns or timelines, until the day of the site visit. Tess arrived at the hotel construction site, clipboard in hand, ready to take measurements and get a feel for the space. She didn't expect to find Hunter there alone, studying the blueprints. "Mr. Voss," she said, surprised, "I didn't know you'd be here." Hunter looked up. "Ms. Matthews, I wanted to see the space for myself before our next meeting." They stood awkwardly for a moment, before Tess moved past him to examine the partially constructed lobby. "I'm thinking of opening up this wall," she said, more to herself than to him. "Bring in more natural light." "That would mean restructuring the support beams," Hunter pointed out, moving closer. "Yes, but it would be worth it. The morning sun would create a natural welcome for guests." To her surprise, Hunter nodded. "I like it. It fits with your concept of bringing the outside in." Tess glanced at him, suspicious of the compliment. "You've been paying attention to my design concept?" "Of course," he said simply. "It's impressive." They spent the next hour walking through the site, discussing possibilities. Despite herself, Tess found the conversation flowing easily. Hunter was knowledgeable about architecture and seemed genuinely interested in her ideas. "You know," he said as they prepared to leave, "I've been wanting to apologize for a while now." Tess stiffened. "There's no need." "There is," Hunter insisted. "What I said that night was ignorant and wrong. I can't take it back, but I want you to know I'm not that person anymore." Tess studied his face, looking for signs of insincerity. "People don't change their preferences overnight, Mr. Voss. It's been 3 years," he said quietly, "and seeing you again, working with you. It's made me realize how narrow-minded I was." "So now you're attracted to black women?" Tess asked sharply. Hunter's face flushed. "I'm attracted to you," he admitted. "But I understand that doesn't erase what I said." Tess was speechless. This was not how she expected the conversation to go. "I should go," she said finally, gathering her things. "We have a deadline to meet." As she walked to her car, Tess's mind was in turmoil. Hunter's admission had caught her off guard. Was he being sincere, or was this some sort of game to ease his guilty conscience? She called Jade from the car. "You won't believe what just happened." After hearing the story, Jade whistled. "Sounds like someone's had a change of heart. Or he's just saying what he thinks I want to hear," Tess countered. "Maybe," Jade said. "But maybe he really has changed. People can, you know." "I don't trust it," Tess said firmly. "And anyway, I'm not going to risk this project over some man's redemption arc." But that night, Tess couldn't sleep. Hunter's words kept replaying in her mind. "I'm attracted to you." What did that even mean, coming from a man who once declared he'd never be interested in someone like her? The next morning, Tess arrived at the office early, hoping to lose herself in work. She was deep in sketches when Jade buzzed her. "There's a delivery for you." A courier entered with a large, flat package. Tess opened it curiously and found a book of Caribbean architecture and design with a simple note. "Saw this and thought of your concept for the cultural influences in the hotel. HV." Tess flipped through the book, impressed despite herself. It was a thoughtful gift, professionally appropriate but personal. "From Hunter?" Jade asked, peering over her shoulder. "Yes," Tess admitted, "and it's actually useful for the project." Jade said with a knowing smile. "Don't me," Tess warned. "It's just a book." Later that week at the project meeting, Hunter sat across from Tess, his eyes finding hers whenever she spoke. She tried to ignore the flutter in her stomach. This was dangerous territory. After the meeting, Caroline pulled Tess aside. "The investors are thrilled with your progress," she said, "especially Hunter. He can't stop talking about your vision." Tess didn't know how to respond. Part of her was pleased, another part remained wary. As the weeks passed, Hunter continued to be professional but attentive. He asked thoughtful questions about her designs. He remembered details she mentioned in passing. Once, when a male contractor tried to talk over her, Hunter stepped in. "I believe Miss Matthews was speaking," he said firmly, "and since she's the design expert here, we should all listen." The small gesture didn't go unnoticed by Tess. One evening, as they were the last two left reviewing material samples in the conference room, Hunter cleared his throat. "Would you like to get dinner?" he asked. "To discuss the project," he added quickly. Tess hesitated. "I don't think that's a good idea." "Just as colleagues," Hunter insisted. "There's a new restaurant downtown I thought you might enjoy. They showcase local artists on their walls." Against her better judgment, Tess agreed. The restaurant was elegant but comfortable, with stunning artwork by local black artists prominently displayed. Tess was impressed by Hunter's choice. "How did you know about this place?" she asked as they were seated. "I've been exploring more diverse parts of Austin lately," Hunter admitted, "trying to broaden my perspectives." Throughout dinner, they talked about the project, but also about their backgrounds. Hunter spoke about growing up in old money, the expectations, the bubble he lived in. "It's not an excuse," he said, "but I never questioned anything I was taught until recently." "What changed?" Tess asked. Hunter looked at her directly. "Meeting you again, seeing how wrong I was." The intensity of his gaze made Tess uncomfortable. She changed the subject back to safer ground, the hotel project. As they left the restaurant, Hunter walked Tess to her car. "Thank you for dinner," she said politely. "Tess," Hunter said, using her first name for the first time, "I know you have every reason to distrust me, but I hope someday you'll give me a chance to prove I've changed." Tess studied his face in the dim parking lot light. There was a sincerity there she couldn't deny. "Good night, Hunter," she said softly, getting into her car. Driving home, Tess felt conflicted. Was she being unfair by not believing people could change? Or was she right to protect herself from someone who had hurt her before? The next day, she visited Aunt Maxine for advice. "He seems different," Tess admitted as they sat on the porch, "but I'm scared to trust it." Aunt Maxine took her hand. "Baby girl, only you can decide if he's worth the risk. But remember what I told you about men who are learning. Make sure he's not just learning me to feel better about himself," Tess repeated. "That's right. Is he changing because it's right or just to win you over?" It was a question Tess couldn't answer yet, but as the hotel project progressed and she spent more time with Hunter, she found herself warming to him despite her reservations. Until the day she met his mother. Eleanor Voss arrived unannounced at the construction site, a tall, elegant woman with steel-grey hair and cold eyes. Hunter's face tensed when he saw her. "Mother," he said, clearly surprised. "What are you doing here?" "I was in town and thought I'd see this project you've been so consumed with." Her eyes landed on Tess. "And who is this?" "Tess Matthews," Hunter said, "our lead designer." "Tess, this is my mother, Eleanor Voss." Eleanor's smile didn't reach her eyes. "How nice." Hunter mentioned the designer was unique. The emphasis on unique wasn't lost on Tess. "It's a pleasure to meet you, Mrs. Voss," Tess said professionally. "Mother, Tess has created an incredible concept for the hotel," Hunter said quickly. "Wait until you see her plans." Eleanor's gaze swept over Tess once more. "I'm sure they're very ethnic." The silence that followed was deafening. Tess felt her cheeks burn but kept her composure. "Actually, Mrs. Voss," she said calmly, "my designs blend contemporary luxury with subtle cultural influences. Nothing too ethnic for your comfort." Hunter looked mortified. "Mother, that's enough." "What?" Eleanor said innocently. "I meant it as a compliment. Diversity is very trendy right now." "I need to check on something with the contractor," Tess said, excusing herself before she lost her temper. As she walked away, she heard Hunter's angry voice. "How could you speak to her that way?" Eleanor's reply was too quiet to hear, but Hunter's response came clearly. "She's lovely and extremely talented, and I don't care what you or anyone in our circle thinks." Later, Hunter found Tess in what would become the hotel's main restaurant. "I'm so sorry about my mother," he said. "What she said was inexcusable." Tess nodded, still hurt. "Now I understand where you got those views you expressed 3 years ago." Hunter winced. "Yes, but that's not who I want to be anymore." "It's not that simple, Hunter," Tess said, finally using his first name. "This isn't just about you deciding to be different. This is about my life, my experiences. Do you have any idea what it's like to always be seen as other?" "No," Hunter admitted. "I don't, but I want to understand. I want to be better." His sincerity touched something in Tess. "Why?" she asked softly. "Why does it matter so much to you what I think?" Hunter stepped closer. "Because since you walked back into my life, I haven't been able to think of anyone else. Because you're brilliant and beautiful, and you make me want to be worthy of someone like you." Tess's heart raced. Despite all her walls, all her reservations, she couldn't deny the attraction between them. "I need time," she said finally. "This is complicated." Hunter nodded. "I understand. Take all the time you need. I'm not going anywhere." As Tess drove home that evening, her phone buzzed with a text from Hunter. "I told my mother that if she can't respect you, she's not welcome at the project site again." It was a small gesture, but it spoke volumes. Perhaps Hunter Voss really was changing. And perhaps, despite everything, Tess was falling for the one man she'd sworn she'd never want. 2 weeks after the encounter with Hunter's mother, Tess was buried in work at her office. The Ecolux hotel project was moving ahead quickly, and deadlines were piling up. "You've been working non-stop," Jade said, bringing Tess a cup of coffee. "Are you avoiding someone?" Tess looked up from her sketches. "I'm not avoiding Hunter. I'm just busy." "I didn't mention Hunter," Jade said with a sly smile. "But interesting that your mind went straight to him." Tess sighed. "Fine. Maybe I am avoiding him a little. Things got complicated because of his mother. That's part of it." Tess put down her pencil. "But it's more than that. He's saying all the right things, Jade. He's doing all the right things. And I'm starting to believe him. And that scares you," Jade guessed. "Terrifies me," Tess admitted. "What if I'm just setting myself up to get hurt again? Or what if you're missing out on something real?" Jade countered. "You can't hide in this office forever." As if on cue, Tess's phone buzzed with a text from Hunter. "Site meeting at 3 p.m. Important changes to discuss. Please be there." Tess texted back a simple, "I'll be there," and tried to ignore the flutter in her stomach. At the construction site, Tess found Hunter waiting alone, looking more casual than usual in jeans and a button-down shirt with rolled-up sleeves. "Where is everyone?" she asked, looking around. Hunter looked slightly guilty. There's no meeting. I just needed to talk to you alone. Tess crossed her arms. So you lied. I prefer strategic omission, Hunter said with a small smile. You've been avoiding me, Tess. I've been busy, she insisted. Too busy to return my calls? To respond to my emails with more than one-word answers? Tess sighed. Fine. I've been keeping my distance. After what happened with your mother, I meant what I said, Hunter interrupted. I told her she's not welcome here if she can't respect you. And how did that go over? Hunter's expression darkened. Not well. She reminded me that the Voss family has a certain image to maintain, that certain matches would complicate things. Matches? Tess repeated, raising an eyebrow. Her word, not mine, Hunter said quickly. I told her that her outdated views weren't my problem. Tess studied him, surprised. That must have been a difficult conversation. It was worth it, Hunter said simply. But that's not why I asked you here. I want to show you something. He led her to what would become the hotel's main suite. The space was still under construction, but Hunter had set up a table with design boards. What's this? Tess asked. I've been thinking about your concept for this room, Hunter explained. You mentioned wanting to incorporate Caribbean influences to honor your heritage. He showed her samples of handcrafted tiles from Haiti, textiles from Jamaica, and artwork from local black artists. I reached out to some artisans, Hunter continued. These are just ideas, of course. You're the designer. Tess was touched by the gesture. You did all this research? Hunter nodded. I wanted to understand your vision better, to show you I'm listening. Thank you, Tess said softly. This is thoughtful. They stood close, the air between them charged with unspoken feelings. Hunter took a tentative step closer. Tess, I know I hurt you, and I know it takes more than words to make up for that, but I'm trying to show you who I am now. Before Tess could respond, her phone rang. It was Caroline Winters. Tess, we have a problem. The budget committee is meeting now and they're talking about cutting your design budget by 30%. What? Tess exclaimed. That would completely compromise the project. I know. Can you come now? Hunter should be there too. He's with me, Tess said. We'll be right there. Hanging up, she explained the situation to Hunter, who looked troubled. This doesn't make sense. The budget was approved months ago. Well, someone's trying to change it, Tess said, already gathering her things, and I'm not going to let them ruin this project. They arrived at the Ecolux offices to find Caroline pacing outside the conference room. Thank goodness you're here, she said. It's Thomas Reed. He's saying your designs are too expensive, too risky. Thomas Reed was another investor, one Tess had met only briefly. He always seemed dismissive of her ideas. Let me handle this, Hunter said, straightening his shoulders. Inside the conference room, Thomas Reed was showing a presentation to the other committee members. As you can see, he was saying, Matthew's designs, while creative, require materials that exceed our budget constraints. I propose we scale back to a more conventional approach. Conventional, Tess said loudly as she entered. You mean boring? Reed turned, surprise flashing across his face. Ms. Matthews, this is a closed meeting. About my designs, Tess countered. I think that gives me the right to be here. Hunter stepped forward. What's going on, Thomas? The budget was approved. That was before we saw the full cost breakdowns, Reed said smoothly. Your designer has expensive taste. Quality has a price, Tess said, keeping her voice level. But I've stayed within the budget we agreed upon. The numbers say otherwise, Reed insisted, pointing to his presentation. Tess moved closer to see the screen and frowned. These aren't my numbers. Someone's inflated the costs. Hunter looked at the figures, his expression darkening. Thomas, where did you get these figures? Reed shifted uncomfortably. From the purchasing department. That's not possible, Caroline interjected. I oversee all purchasing reports, and these aren't the numbers we have. The room fell silent, as everyone realized what was happening. Reed was deliberately trying to sabotage Tess's designs. I think, Hunter said coldly, we need to see the actual numbers. Caroline, could you bring up the official budget report? When Caroline displayed the correct figures, it was clear that Tess's designs were well within budget. The other committee members looked at Reed with disappointment. It seems there's been a misunderstanding, one of them said diplomatically. No, Hunter said firmly. There's been a deliberate attempt to undermine our lead designer, and I want to know why. Reed's face flushed. The hotel is supposed to be our flagship property. We need a design that appeals to our target demographic. And what demographic is that? Tess asked, though she already knew the answer. Reed glanced around uncomfortably. Our typical high-end clientele. You mean white and wealthy, Tess said bluntly. The room went quiet again. Hunter broke the silence. Thomas, the entire concept of Ecolux is to create something different, something inclusive but still luxurious. Ms. Matthews' designs do exactly that. It's a risk, Reed insisted. One I'm willing to take, Hunter said. And since my family holds the majority investment, I think that settles it. After a tense vote, the budget was reapproved without cuts. Reed left the room without looking at Tess or Hunter. In the hallway afterward, Tess turned to Hunter. Thank you for standing up for me in there. I didn't do it just for you, Hunter said. I did it because your designs are the best thing about this project. Reed was being short-sighted and prejudiced. Tess nodded, appreciating his honesty. It happens more often than you'd think. I'm starting to see that, Hunter admitted. And I'm sorry. Their eyes met, and something shifted between them. For the first time, Tess felt like Hunter truly understood. Let me make it up to you, Hunter said suddenly. Dinner tonight, a real dinner, not a work meeting. Tess hesitated, then nodded. Okay, but this time, I choose the place. That evening, Tess took Hunter to a small family-owned restaurant in East Austin, far from the upscale places he usually frequented. My aunt and I have been coming here for years, Tess explained as they were seated. Best soul food in town. The restaurant was warm and welcoming, with photos of local families on the walls. The owners greeted Tess by name. Tess Matthews. It's been too long, honey, the older woman said, hugging her. And you brought a friend. Mrs. Johnson, this is Hunter, Tess said. Hunter, this is Mrs. Johnson. She and her husband have owned this place for 40 years. Hunter stood and shook her hand respectfully. It's a pleasure to meet you, Mrs. Johnson. Mrs. Johnson looked him over with a knowing smile. Well, he's handsome, I'll give him that. It's not like that, Tess said quickly, feeling her cheeks warm. Mrs. Johnson said, clearly not believing her. I'll bring you both the special. Over dinner, Hunter seemed genuinely interested in the restaurant and the neighborhood. This food is amazing, he said, savoring the fried chicken and collard greens. I can't believe I've never been here. There's a lot of Austin you've never seen, Tess pointed out. Hunter nodded, acknowledging the truth in her words. I've lived in a bubble, Tess. I'm trying to change that. Why? Tess asked, the question that had been on her mind for weeks. Why now? Why me? Hunter considered her question carefully. At first it was guilt, he admitted. When I saw you again, I was ashamed of what I'd said. I wanted to prove I wasn't that person. And now? Now it's because I see you, Hunter said simply. Really see you. Your talent, your strength, your beauty. And I can't believe I ever said I wouldn't be attracted to someone like you. The honesty in his voice made Tess's heart race, but years of guarding herself didn't disappear overnight. Pretty words, she said softly. But Hunter, I need more than words. Tell me what you need, he said, reaching across the table to take her hand. I want to get this right. Before Tess could answer, the restaurant door opened and a familiar voice called out, There's my girl. Aunt Maxine walked in, then stopped short when she saw Hunter. Oh, I didn't know you had company. Tess stood quickly. Auntie, what are you doing here? Mrs. Johnson called and said you were here, Aunt Maxine explained, her eyes fixed on Hunter. Thought I'd surprise you. Tess suspected Mrs. Johnson had mentioned more than just her presence. Aunt Maxine, this is Hunter Voss. Hunter, my aunt, Maxine Williams. Hunter stood and extended his hand. It's an honor to meet you, Miss Williams. Tess speaks very highly of you. Aunt Maxine's handshake was brief. Voss, she repeated. You're the one who said you don't date black women. Hunter's face flushed, but he didn't deny it. I am, and it was ignorant and wrong of me. Aunt Maxine said, studying him. At least you admit it. Most folks just pretend they never said the ugly things they did. I'm trying to be better, Hunter said simply. Trying is good, Aunt Maxine agreed, but don't expect a medal for basic decency. I don't, Hunter assured her. Aunt Maxine looked at Tess. You okay, baby girl? I'm fine, Auntie, Tess said, both embarrassed and touched by her aunt's protective instinct. Good. Then I'll leave you two to your dinner. She turned to go, then looked back at Hunter. You hurt her. You'll answer to me. Understood? Yes, ma'am, Hunter said respectfully. After Aunt Maxine left, Tess buried her face in her hands. I'm so sorry about that. Don't be, Hunter said. She loves you. She's right to be protective. She's the only real family I have, Tess explained. After my parents died, she raised me like I was her own. She did an amazing job, Hunter said softly. The rest of dinner passed pleasantly. with Hunter asking more about Tess's childhood and her journey to becoming a designer. For the first time, Tess felt herself truly relaxing around him. As they left the restaurant, Hunter walked Tess to her car. The night air was warm, and stars dotted the clear Texas sky. "Thank you for tonight," Hunter said, "for showing me a part of your world." "Thank you for wanting to see it," Tess replied. They stood close, the attraction between them undeniable. Hunter leaned in slowly, giving Tess time to pull away if she wanted. Instead, she closed the distance between them. The kiss was gentle at first, then deepened as Tess allowed herself to feel what she'd been fighting for weeks. Hunter's arms encircled her waist, pulling her closer. When they finally broke apart, both were breathing heavily. "I've wanted to do that since you walked into that first meeting," Hunter admitted. Tess smiled. "Even though I'm not your type." "You're exactly my type," Hunter said, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. "I was just too blind to see it." The moment was interrupted by Tess's phone buzzing. It was a text from Jade. "Emergency at the site. Water damage in the East Wing. Contractors need decisions ASAP." Tess sighed. "Duty calls. There's a problem at the hotel. I'll come with you," Hunter offered. At the construction site, they found a mess. A pipe had burst, flooding part of the area where Tess had planned a luxury spa. The contractors were arguing about how to proceed. "We'll have to rip out all the framing and start over," one was saying. "That will set us back at least 3 weeks, another objected. Tess surveyed the damage, her mind already calculating solutions. "We don't need to start over," she said firmly. "We can salvage most of the structure." "With all due respect, Miss Matthews, this is a construction issue, not a design issue," the first contractor said dismissively. Before Tess could respond, Hunter stepped in. "Ms. Matthews is the lead on this project, and she knows what she's talking about. If she says we can salvage it, then that's what we do." The contractor looked surprised but nodded reluctantly. "Yes, sir." Tess gave Hunter a grateful look, then turned back to the problem. For the next 2 hours, she worked alongside the construction team, revising plans on the spot and directing the cleanup efforts. Hunter stayed the whole time, rolling up his sleeves to help move damaged materials and listening carefully to Tess's instructions. By midnight, the crisis was contained. The damage would delay things by only a few days, not weeks. "You were amazing," Hunter said as they finally prepared to leave. "The way you took charge, found solutions on the fly." "It's my job," Tess said modestly. "It's more than that," Hunter insisted. "It's who you are. You don't just design spaces, Tess. You transform them." Exhausted but pleased, Tess smiled. "Are you always this complimentary at midnight?" "Only when I'm impressed," Hunter said, "which, with you, is always." He walked her to her car again, both of them dirty and tired from the work. "About that kiss," Tess began. "I don't regret it," Hunter said quickly. "Do you?" Tess considered the question. "No," she admitted, "but I'm still cautious, Hunter. This is complicated." "I know," he said, "and I'll wait until you're ready, no pressure." He leaned in and kissed her cheek softly. "Good night, Tess." Driving home, Tess couldn't stop thinking about Hunter, the way he'd defended her to the contractors, the way he'd worked alongside her without complaint, the way he kissed her. Was she really falling for Hunter Voss? The next day, Tess arrived at her office to find a delivery, a beautiful orchid with a simple note. "You're extraordinary, H." "Someone's smitten," Jade observed with a grin. "It's just a thank you for handling the crisis last night," Tess insisted, though she couldn't help smiling. "Right," Jade said, clearly not convinced. "That's why you're blushing." Before Tess could respond, her phone rang. It was Eleanor Voss. "Ms. Matthews," Eleanor's cold voice came through the line. "I'd like to meet with you. Today, if possible." Tess was surprised. "Mrs. Voss, I'm quite busy with the hotel project." "This won't take long," Eleanor said. "Shall we say noon at the Capitol Grill?" Tess hesitated, then agreed. She was curious what Hunter's mother wanted. The Capitol Grill was one of Austin's most exclusive restaurants, frequented by politicians and old money. Tess arrived precisely at noon, dressed in a sleek burgundy dress that projected confidence. Eleanor Voss was already seated, looking elegant and imposing in a cream-colored suit. She didn't stand when Tess approached. "Ms. Matthews," she said with a thin smile, "thank you for meeting me." "Mrs. Voss," Tess replied, taking a seat across from her. "What can I do for you?" Eleanor didn't waste time on pleasantries. "I'll be direct. I understand you've been seeing my son." "Hunter and I work together," Tess said carefully. "Please," Eleanor said with a dismissive wave. "Hunter hasn't stopped talking about you. It's quite tiresome, actually." Tess kept her expression neutral. I'm not sure why that concerns you. Because I know my son, Eleanor said. When he fixates on something, he can be quite impulsive. I'm worried he's making a mistake. A mistake, Tess repeated, her voice cool. And what mistake would that be? Don't misunderstand me, Miss Matthews. You seem like a lovely person. Very talented, I'm sure. But Hunter has certain responsibilities to his family, his position in society. Are you saying I'm not good enough for your son? Tess asked bluntly. Eleanor's smile tightened. I'm saying you're from different worlds. Surely you can see that yourself. Different doesn't mean incompatible, Tess countered. No, but it often means difficult, Eleanor said. Hunter has always been idealistic. He doesn't understand the realities of the world we live in. And what reality is that, Mrs. Voss? That people talk, Eleanor said simply. That certain choices have consequences. Tess felt anger rising, but kept her composure. I see. And have you shared these concerns with Hunter? I've tried, Eleanor admitted, but he's being stubborn. That's why I wanted to speak with you directly. To what end? Tess asked. Are you hoping I'll walk away from him to spare him these consequences? Eleanor leaned forward. I'm hoping you'll be practical. Hunter is offering you a wonderful professional opportunity with this hotel. Don't jeopardize that by getting personally involved with him. Are you threatening my position on the project? Tess asked, her voice dangerously calm. Not at all, Eleanor said. I'm simply suggesting that mixing business and pleasure rarely ends well, for anyone. She reached into her purse and pulled out a small velvet box. Hunter's father gave me this when we got engaged, she said, opening it to reveal a stunning diamond bracelet. It's worth quite a bit. I'd like you to have it. Tess stared at the bracelet, then at Eleanor. Are you trying to buy me off? I'm offering you compensation for your discretion, Eleanor said smoothly. A woman in your position could surely use such a valuable asset. A woman in my position, Tess repeated, standing up. Mrs. Voss, I'm a successful business owner who's earned everything I have. I don't need your money or your jewelry. Don't be foolish, Eleanor said sharply. Everyone has a price. Not me, Tess said firmly, and certainly not for something as precious as my self-respect. She turned to leave, then paused. One more thing, Mrs. Voss. If you're so concerned about Hunter's reputation, perhaps you should focus on your own behavior. Because this, she gestured at the bracelet, this is shameful. Tess walked out with her head high, but her hands were shaking. She hadn't told Eleanor the whole truth, that she and Hunter had shared only one kiss, that they weren't really seeing each other in any formal sense, but the encounter had clarified something for Tess. She did have feelings for Hunter, strong ones. And his mother's disapproval only made her more determined not to be scared away. She was about to call Hunter when her phone rang. It was Caroline Winters. Tess, I need you at the office right away, she said, sounding stressed. The board wants to review the entire design concept. Thomas Reed has convinced some of the other investors that we need to go in a different direction. What? Tess exclaimed. But we're already under construction. I know. That's why we need to fight this. Hunter's already here, trying to talk sense into them. I'm on my way, Tess said, anger fueling her determination. At the Ecolux offices, Tess found a tense scene. Hunter was in heated discussion with Thomas Reed and several other board members. The market research doesn't support such a radical departure from our usual aesthetic, Reed was saying. What market research? Hunter demanded. We commissioned this concept precisely because we wanted something different. Tess entered the room confidently. Gentlemen, she said, drawing all eyes to her, I understand there are concerns about my design concept. Reed looked pleased, clearly expecting her to be intimidated. Ms. Matthews, we appreciate your work, but the board feels we need a more traditional approach. Traditional, Tess repeated. You keep using that word. What exactly do you mean by it? Reed faltered slightly. Just that our clientele expects a certain level of familiarity. You mean whiteness, Tess said directly. You're afraid my designs, with their multicultural influences, won't appeal to your wealthy white clients. The room went silent. Some board members looked uncomfortable, others angry. That's a serious accusation, one said stiffly. It's not an accusation, Tess replied. It's an observation, and it's short-sighted. She moved to the large screen at the front of the room and pulled up her presentation. The luxury market is changing, she said firmly. Today's wealthy travelers don't want generic luxury. They want authentic experiences, cultural depth, stories they can connect with. She clicked through images of her designs. explaining the thoughtful way she'd incorporated elements from diverse cultures while maintaining high-end appeal. "This isn't just aesthetic," she continued. "It's business. Hotels that offer unique cultural experiences command higher room rates and have higher occupancy than those with traditional designs." Hunter watched her with undisguised admiration as she systematically dismantled Reed's arguments with facts, figures, and compelling visuals. "Most importantly," Tess concluded, "this design is already underway. Changing course now would cost millions and delay opening by months, if not years." "Is that what you want?" The board members looked at each other, clearly reconsidering. Hunter seized the moment. "I propose we take a vote," he said. "All in favor of continuing with Ms. Matthews' original concept?" Almost every hand went up. Reed's face darkened with anger. "This is a mistake," he muttered. "No," Hunter said firmly. "The mistake would be letting prejudice cloud our business judgment." After the meeting, Tess felt drained but victorious. Hunter approached her with a broad smile. "That was incredible," he said. "You just saved the project." "We saved it," Tess corrected him. "Thank you for standing by me." Hunter's expression grew serious. "Always. Listen, I wanted to talk to you about—" "I met with your mother today," Tess interrupted. Hunter's face fell. "What? When?" "At lunch. She invited me to the Capitol Grill for a chat." "I didn't know," Hunter said, looking troubled. "What did she want?" "To warn me away from you," Tess said simply. "She seems to think I'm not good enough for her son." Hunter's expression darkened. "I'm so sorry, Tess. What did she say exactly?" "She tried to buy me off," Tess admitted. "Offered me a diamond bracelet to stay away from you." "She what?" Hunter's voice rose in anger. I can't believe she would—" "It's okay," Tess said, touching his arm. "I declined her generous offer." Hunter ran a hand through his hair in frustration. "It's not okay. I'm going to talk to her. This has to stop." "Hunter, wait," Tess said. "Before you go, there's something I need to say." He looked at her, his anger giving way to concern. "What is it?" "Your mother asked me if we were seeing each other," Tess said carefully, "and I realized I didn't know how to answer that question." Hunter moved closer, taking her hands in his. "What do you want the answer to be?" Tess took a deep breath. After weeks of fighting her feelings, of doubting Hunter's sincerity, she had finally made up her mind. "I want to give this a chance," she said softly. "Us, I mean. But I need to know you're in this for the right reasons, not out of guilt, not to prove something to yourself or others." "Tess," Hunter said, his voice gentle, "when I said those words 3 years ago, I was speaking from ignorance and prejudice. Meeting you again has changed everything. Not because you're black, but because you're you, brilliant, strong, principled." He cupped her face in his hands. "I'm falling in love with you, Tess Matthews. And yes, I have a lot to learn, but I want to learn it with you, not for you." Tess felt tears prick her eyes. "Hunter Voss, if you're playing with me—" "I've never been more serious about anything in my life," he promised. This time, it was Tess who initiated the kiss, wrapping her arms around Hunter's neck and pulling him close. They were still embracing when the door opened and Caroline walked in. "Oh," she exclaimed, quickly backing away. "I'm sorry, I didn't realize—" "It's fine, Caroline," Tess said, stepping back from Hunter, but keeping hold of his hand. "Did you need something?" Caroline smiled knowingly. "It can wait. Seems like you two have things to discuss." After she left, Hunter grinned. "Well, that cat's out of the bag. Are you okay with that?" Tess asked seriously. "People will talk." "Let them," Hunter said firmly. "I don't care what anyone thinks except you." As they left the office together, Hunter paused. "There's something I need to do first. Will you come with me?" "Where?" Tess asked. "To see my mother," Hunter said grimly. "This ends today." At the Voss family mansion, Eleanor was surprised to see them arrive together. "Hunter, darling," she said, ignoring Tess. "This is unexpected." "Mother," Hunter said coldly, "we need to talk about your lunch with Tess today." Eleanor's smile faltered slightly. "I was simply getting to know your colleague better." "By offering her money to stay away from me," Hunter demanded. "I did no such thing," Eleanor said dismissively. "Ms. Matthews misunderstood." "Don't lie to me," Hunter said, his voice dangerously quiet. "You offered her Dad's bracelet." Eleanor's face hardened. "I was trying to protect you." "From what?" Hunter asked. "From someone who makes me happy? From someone who challenges me to be better?" "You don't understand how the world works," Eleanor insisted. "People in our circle—" "I don't care about our circle," Hunter interrupted. "And if they have a problem with who I choose to love, then they're not people I want in my life anyway." Eleanor looked shocked. "Love? Hunter, you barely know this woman. I know enough, Hunter said firmly. And I know that your behavior today crossed a line that can't be uncrossed. He took Tess's hand. Tess is important to me. If you can't accept that, if you can't treat her with respect, then we have nothing more to say to each other. Eleanor's face paled. You would choose her over your family? I'm choosing to be happy, Hunter corrected her. I'm choosing to be with someone who sees me for who I am, not what I represent. He turned to Tess. Ready to go? Tess nodded but then stepped toward Eleanor. Mrs. Voss, I understand you're protective of your son, but he's a grown man, capable of making his own choices. I hope someday you can respect that. Eleanor didn't respond, her face a mask of cold anger. As they drove away from the mansion, Tess looked at Hunter. Are you okay? That was intense. Hunter nodded, his knuckles white on the steering wheel. I've been wanting to say those things to her for years. Not just about you, but about everything. The expectations, the prejudice, all of it. I'm sorry it came to this, Tess said softly. Don't be, Hunter replied, reaching for her hand. Some things are worth fighting for. That evening, they had dinner at Tess's apartment, talking late into the night about their childhoods, their dreams, their fears. For the first time, Tess felt like she was seeing the real Hunter, not the polished venture capitalist, but the man beneath. You know what the worst part is? Hunter said as they sat on her couch, his arm around her shoulders. I believed it all for so long. The things my parents taught me about status, about who was suitable, I never questioned any of it until I met you again. People can change, Tess said, thinking of her earlier doubts, if they want to badly enough. I want to, Hunter said seriously. Not just for you, but for myself. I don't want to be that person anymore. Tess leaned her head on his shoulder. You're not. That man would never have stood up to his mother like you did today. Hunter kissed the top of her head. I meant what I said to her, Tess. I'm falling in love with you. Tess lifted her head to look at him. I'm falling for you too, she admitted. And it scares me to death. Why? Hunter asked gently. Because I never thought I'd feel this way about someone who once said they'd never want someone like me. Hunter winced. I wish I could take those words back. You can't, Tess said, but you can prove them wrong every day forward. I will, Hunter promised, sealing his words with a kiss. As Tess drifted off to sleep that night, she thought about how far they'd come in such a short time, from hurt and distrust to the beginning of something real. There would be challenges ahead. Hunter's mother, Thomas Reed, the pressures of their different worlds colliding. But for the first time, Tess believed they might be strong enough to face them together. The next few weeks were a whirlwind for Tess and Hunter. During the day, they worked side by side on the hotel project, maintaining professional boundaries, but evenings and weekends were theirs alone, filled with dinners, long talks, and growing affection. You're glowing, Aunt Maxine observed one Sunday afternoon as Tess helped her prepare lunch. That Voss boy must be treating you right. Tess smiled, unable to hide her happiness. He is, Auntie. He's not what I expected. Aunt Maxine said, eyeing her niece. Just remember what I told you. I know, Tess replied. Make sure he's not just learning me to feel better about himself. And? Aunt Maxine prompted. Tess laughed. And keep my eyes open. Trust, but verify. That's my girl. Aunt Maxine patted her cheek affectionately. Now, is he coming to Sunday dinner or what? I made extra. Next week, Tess promised. He's meeting with contractors today. The truth was, Hunter was doing much more than that. He had called Tess that morning with excitement in his voice. I'm meeting with a diversity consultant, he had explained, for my investment firm. It's long overdue. Tess had been touched by his initiative. Hunter wasn't just talking about change, he was actively working toward it in all areas of his life. At her office on Monday morning, Tess was reviewing fabric samples when Jade buzzed her. There's a Thomas Reed here to see you, she said, her voice wary. Should I send him away? Tess hesitated. After the budget meeting confrontation, she hadn't spoken directly to Reed. No, I'll see him. Send him in. Reed entered her office with none of his usual arrogance. He looked uncomfortable, almost nervous. Ms. Matthews, he began, I wanted to speak with you privately. Tess gestured to a chair, but remained standing herself. What can I do for you, Mr. Reed? Reed sat stiffly. I owe you an apology. My behavior regarding your designs was unprofessional. Tess raised an eyebrow, surprised by this sudden change. Yes, it was. May I ask what prompted this apology? Reed shifted in his seat. Let's just say I've had some time to reflect, and some encouragement from others to do so. Hunter spoke to you, Tess guessed. Reed nodded reluctantly. He made some compelling points about my biases. points I couldn't ignore. I see, Tess said, studying him. She wasn't sure if his apology was sincere or merely political. I also wanted to inform you that I'll be stepping back from direct involvement in the Ecolux project, Reed continued. I think that would be best for everyone. That's your decision, Tess said neutrally. Reed stood, clearly eager to end the uncomfortable conversation. That's all I wanted to say. Good day, Ms. Matthews. After he left, Tess immediately called Hunter. Did you force Thomas Reed to apologize to me? She asked without preamble. Force is a strong word, Hunter replied. I suggested it would be the right thing to do, did he? Just now, Tess confirmed. He's also stepping back from the project. That was his idea, Hunter said. After our conversation, he seemed to realize he wasn't adding value. What exactly did you say to him? Tess asked, curious. The truth, Hunter said simply. That his attempts to undermine you were transparent and embarrassing. That they reflected poorly on him, not you, and that if he couldn't work professionally with the lead designer I'd selected, perhaps he should reconsider his involvement. My knight in shining armor, Tess teased, though she was genuinely touched. Hardly, Hunter replied. You were handling him just fine on your own. I just accelerated the timeline. That evening, they celebrated with dinner at a new restaurant downtown. Over dessert, Hunter reached for Tess's hand. I've been thinking, he said, his expression serious. The hotel's opening gala is in 2 months. I'd like you to be my date. Officially. Tess hesitated. Hunter, that would be very public. Everyone will be watching. Good, Hunter said firmly. I want everyone to see us together. I'm proud to be with you, Tess. Even though there will be talk, whispers, your mother's friends giving us the side eye? Especially because of that, Hunter insisted. It's time people like my mother and her friends realized their days of quiet disapproval are over. Tess squeezed his hand. Okay, but I'm wearing something fabulous that will give them even more to talk about. Hunter grinned. I wouldn't have it any other way. The next morning, Tess received an unexpected call from Eleanor Voss. Ms. Matthews, Eleanor's cold voice came through the phone. I'd like to meet with you again, Tess sighed. Mrs. Voss, our last meeting wasn't particularly productive. This is different, Eleanor insisted. Please, it's important. Against her better judgment, Tess agreed to meet Eleanor for coffee that afternoon. Eleanor looked less polished than usual when Tess arrived at the cafe. There was a vulnerability in her expression that Tess hadn't seen before. Thank you for coming, Eleanor said, her voice softer than usual. What's this about, Mrs. Voss? Tess asked directly. Eleanor took a deep breath. Hunter hasn't spoken to me in 3 weeks, not since that day at the house. I'm sorry to hear that, Tess said carefully, but that's between you and your son. He's never done this before, Eleanor continued. Even when we disagreed, he always maintained contact. But now, her voice trailed off. What do you want from me? Tess asked. I want to understand, Eleanor said, surprising Tess. What does he see in you? Why is he willing to throw away everything for this relationship? Tess felt a flash of anger but controlled it. First, he's not throwing away anything. Second, you'd have to ask him what he sees in me. I can't speak for him. But you must know, Eleanor pressed. You must have some idea why he's so fixated. Love isn't fixation, Mrs. Voss, Tess said firmly. And if you're asking if I've somehow tricked or manipulated your son, the answer is no. We connected through work. We found we have a lot in common. We care about each other. It's really that simple. Eleanor looked skeptical. Nothing about Hunter is simple. He's a Voss. He has responsibilities, expectations, which are yours, not his, Tess interrupted. Have you ever asked Hunter what he wants? What makes him happy? Eleanor fell silent, her eyes lowering to her untouched coffee. Mrs. Voss, Tess said more gently, I didn't come into Hunter's life to take him away from his family, but I won't apologize for caring about him or for him caring about me. My husband would be so disappointed, Eleanor murmured, almost to herself. Because I'm black? Tess asked bluntly. Eleanor looked up, startled by Tess's directness. It's not that simple. It never is, Tess agreed. But that's the root of it, isn't it? You're not concerned about Hunter's happiness. You're concerned about appearances. You don't understand our world, Eleanor said defensively. I understand it better than you think, Tess countered. I've had to navigate spaces like yours my entire career. The difference is I don't believe those spaces should stay exclusive and unwelcoming. Eleanor studied Tess with new eyes. You're very direct. Life's too short not to be, Tess replied. Look, Mrs. Voss, I can't make Hunter speak to you again. That's his choice. But if you want any kind of relationship with your son going forward, You're going to have to accept that he makes his own decisions now, including who he loves. And he loves you? Eleanor asked quietly. He says he does, Tess said, and I believe him. Eleanor nodded slowly, seeming to absorb this. Thank you for meeting with me, Ms. Matthews. You've given me a lot to think about. Tess wasn't sure if she'd made any difference, but she hoped Eleanor would at least try to understand Hunter's perspective. That evening, Tess told Hunter about the meeting. She reached out to you? He asked, surprised. That's unexpected. She misses you, Tess said. Whatever else she is, she's still your mother. Hunter sighed. I know, but I meant what I said to her. I can't have her in my life if she can't respect you. People can change, Tess reminded him. If they want to badly enough. Hunter smiled at her words, echoed back to him. We'll see, but I'm not holding my breath. As the hotel project neared completion, Tess spent long hours on site, overseeing the installation of her designs. Hunter often joined her, bringing coffee and offering support. One evening, as they stood in what would soon be the hotel's main restaurant, Hunter wrapped his arms around Tess from behind. It's even more beautiful than the renderings, he said, looking at the space taking shape around them. You've created something extraordinary here. Tess leaned back against him, enjoying the rare, quiet moment amid the hectic final weeks. We did. This project has changed everything for me. For me too, Hunter said softly, turning her to face him. Not just professionally. He kissed her gently, then more deeply. In the deserted construction site, with only the security lights illuminating the space, they held each other close. I love you, Tess Matthews, Hunter whispered against her hair. I love you too, Tess replied, the words coming easily now. Even though you're the last man I ever thought I'd say that to. Hunter laughed. Life has a way of surprising us. The night of the hotel's opening gala arrived with great anticipation. The Ecolux had already generated buzz in the national press for its innovative design and cultural elements. Tess stood in her apartment, examining herself in the mirror. She had chosen a stunning gold gown that hugged her curves and complemented her dark skin. Her hair was styled in an elegant updo, and she wore the earrings her mother had left her, her one connection to the parents she'd lost so young. Aunt Maxine, who was helping her get ready, whistled appreciatively. Baby girl, you're going to stop traffic in that dress. That's the plan, Tess said with a smile. Hunter's mother and her friends will be there. I want to make sure they have something to really talk about. Just remember, Aunt Maxine said, adjusting Tess's necklace. You're not dressing up for them or to prove anything to them. You're celebrating your success. You're right, Tess agreed. This night is about the hotel, about what we've created. The doorbell rang, and Aunt Maxine went to answer it. That must be your man. Let me give him the once-over before you come out. Tess laughed, knowing her aunt still enjoyed making Hunter a little nervous. She heard their voices in the living room. Then Aunt Maxine called, Come on out, baby girl. Let's see if he can still speak when he sees you. Tess walked into the living room to find Hunter in a perfectly tailored tuxedo, looking as handsome as she'd ever seen him. When he saw her, his eyes widened and his mouth opened slightly. Wow, he said softly. There are no words. That's what I thought, Aunt Maxine said with satisfaction. Boy's speechless. Hunter recovered enough to approach Tess and take her hands. You look absolutely stunning. You clean up pretty well yourself, Tess replied with a smile. Now you two listen, Aunt Maxine said seriously. Tonight is important. People will be watching. Some of them won't like seeing you together. Don't you give them the satisfaction of seeing you bothered by it. We won't, Hunter promised, his eyes never leaving Tess. Good. Now go show them what class really looks like. The hotel was transformed for the gala. Soft lighting highlighted Tess's designs, and flowers adorned every surface. Press photographers lined the entrance, capturing images of Austin's elite as they arrived. When Hunter and Tess stepped out of the car together, there was a noticeable pause in the conversations nearby. Then the cameras began flashing rapidly. Ready? Hunter asked, offering his arm. Ready, Tess confirmed, slipping her hand through his elbow. They walked the red carpet with confidence, stopping for photos as requested. Hunter kept his hand at the small of her back, a gesture of both support and pride. Inside, the ballroom was filled with investors, city officials, and social elites. Caroline Winters approached them immediately. Tess, you look magnificent, she exclaimed. And the hotel, it's beyond our expectations. The press is raving already. Thank you, Tess said. It was a team effort. A successful one, Hunter added. Advance bookings are already at 80% for the first 6 months. As they moved through the crowd, Tess was aware of the whispers, the glances. Some were admiring, others clearly disapproving. She ignored them all, focusing instead on the triumph of seeing her designs come to life around her. Then she spotted Eleanor Voss, standing with a group of older women who were casting not-so-subtle looks in their direction. "Your mother's here," Tess murmured to Hunter. Hunter tensed slightly. "I didn't think she'd come. Do you want to speak to her?" Tess asked. Before Hunter could answer, Caroline approached again. "Hunter, the mayor would like a word. And Tess, there's a reporter from Architectural Digest who's dying to interview you." They were separated for the next hour, each pulled in different directions by people eager to speak with them. Tess was in the middle of explaining her design philosophy to the reporter when she noticed a commotion near the bar. Thomas Reed, who appeared to have had too much to drink, was talking loudly to a group of men. "Course it looks good," he was saying, "but we all know why Voss hired her, trying to prove how woke he is after that comment he made." Tess froze, the reporter's next question fading into background noise. She excused herself and moved closer to hear more. "What comment was that?" one of the men asked Reed. Reed laughed. "At the Maxwell dinner 3 years ago, he said he'd never date a black woman. Not attracted to them," he said. "And now look at him, parading her around like some trophy of his enlightenment." Tess felt her face flush with anger and embarrassment. The story of Hunter's comment was now being shared publicly, twisting their relationship into something ugly and false. Before she could decide what to do, Hunter appeared at her side. "Everything okay?" he asked, then saw Reed and the group of men. "What's going on?" "Reed is sharing the story of your comment from 3 years ago," Tess said quietly, "making it sound like you're only with me to prove something." Hunter's face darkened with anger. "I'll handle this." "Hunter, wait!" Tess began, but he was already striding toward Reed. "Thomas," Hunter said loudly enough for nearby guests to hear, "I think you've had enough to drink." Reed turned, a sloppy smile on his face. "Hunter, we were just talking about you and your designer." "I heard," Hunter said coldly, "and I think you should leave." "Why?" Reed challenged. "Because I'm telling the truth. Everyone knows you're only with her to assuage your guilty conscience." The surrounding conversations died down as people turned to watch the confrontation. "You're drunk and making a fool of yourself," Hunter said, his voice dangerously controlled. "Security will escort you out." "You didn't deny it," Reed pressed, clearly enjoying the scene he was creating. "Did your girlfriend know what you really thought about black women before she fell for your act?" Before Hunter could respond, Tess stepped forward. All eyes turned to her. "Mr. Reed," she said clearly, "I'm well aware of what Hunter said 3 years ago. I was there, I heard every word." A murmur went through the crowd. Reed looked surprised, then smug. "Well then, you know I'm right." "What I know," Tess continued, her voice steady, "is that people can change when they confront their biases, when they take responsibility for their words and actions." She moved to stand beside Hunter, taking his hand. "Hunter was wrong 3 years ago. He's admitted that. He's worked to understand why he believed what he did and to change those beliefs. Not just with words, but with actions." She looked directly at Reed. "That's more than I can say for some people who hide their prejudice behind fake concern and too much whiskey." Several people in the crowd chuckled. Reed's face flushed with embarrassment. "Security," Hunter called, and 2 men in suits appeared immediately. "Mr. Reed needs assistance finding his way out." As Reed was led away, protesting weakly, a voice cut through the remaining tension. "Well said, Ms. Matthews." Eleanor Voss stepped forward, surprising everyone. She looked elegant as always, but there was something different in her expression as she addressed Tess. "It takes courage to stand up for what you believe in," she continued, "and to stand by those you care about." Hunter stared at his mother in disbelief. "Mother?" Eleanor turned to her son. "Hunter, I owe you an apology, and Ms. Matthews as well. My behavior has been inexcusable." The crowd around them began to disperse, giving the family some privacy, while still watching with interest from a distance. "What changed?" Hunter asked suspiciously. "I've been doing some reflecting," Eleanor admitted, "and some listening to perspectives I've previously ignored." She glanced at Tess. "Our conversation was enlightening." Hunter looked between his mother and Tess, clearly surprised by this development. "I can't promise I'll change overnight," Eleanor continued. "Old habits and beliefs run deep, but I can promise to try because I don't want to lose my son." She hesitated, then added, "and because perhaps I've been wrong about many things." Hunter was speechless. Tess squeezed his hand supportively. "Thank you, Mrs. Voss," she said. "That means a lot." Eleanor nodded stiffly, clearly uncomfortable with the vulnerability she was showing. "Well, I should let you get back to your guests. This is your night, after all." As she walked away, Hunter turned to Tess. "Did you know about this?" "I had no idea," Tess assured him. "We talked, but I never expected her to actually listen." Hunter shook his head in amazement. "You're remarkable, you know that. You managed to get through to my mother when no one else ever has." "I just told her the truth," Tess said simply, "that her son deserves to be happy, even if it's not in the way she planned." The rest of the evening passed in a blur of congratulations and compliments. The hotel was declared a stunning success, with particular praise for Tess's innovative designs. Near the end of the night, Hunter led Tess out to the hotel's rooftop garden, a peaceful oasis above the city lights. They were alone, the sounds of the gala fading below them. "What a night," Tess sighed, leaning against the railing. "From public confrontations to family reconciliations. Never a dull moment with us," Hunter agreed, standing close beside her. "But there's one more thing I wanted to do tonight." He turned to face her, taking both her hands in his. "Tess Matthews, when you walked into that first meeting, I knew my life was about to change. I just didn't realize how much." Tess smiled. "Hunter Voss, are you getting sentimental on me?" "Very," he admitted with a grin. "But I mean every word. You've made me see the world differently. You've made me see myself differently." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. Tess's eyes widened. "Hunter, it's not what you think," he said quickly. "Or rather, not yet. It's too soon for that. But I wanted to give you something to mark tonight, to mark us." He opened the box to reveal a beautiful pendant, a gold sun with a small diamond at its center. "It reminded me of you," Hunter explained. "Bright, radiant, the center of my universe now." Tears pricked at Tess's eyes. "It's beautiful." Hunter fastened the necklace around her neck, his fingers brushing her skin. "One day when the time is right, I'll have a different box for you. But for now, this is my promise to keep learning, keep growing, keep loving you." Tess touched the pendant, then pulled Hunter close for a kiss. "I never thought I'd say this, but I'm glad you said those words 3 years ago." Hunter looked confused. "You're glad I said something horrible?" "I'm glad you said something that you've worked so hard to disprove," Tess clarified, "because it shows how far you've come, how far we've come together." Below them, the city of Austin sparkled with lights. Above, the stars shone brightly in the Texas sky. And between them, on that rooftop garden, Tess and Hunter held each other close, their unlikely love story just beginning. 3 months after the hotel's successful opening, Tess's design firm was busier than ever. The Ecolux had been featured in every major design magazine, with particular praise for the way Tess had blended cultural influences with luxury aesthetics. New clients were calling daily, eager to work with the designer everyone was talking about. "So your schedule is completely booked for the next 6 months," Jade reported one morning, setting a stack of messages on Tess's desk. "And these are just the calls from yesterday." Tess shook her head in amazement. "I never imagined the hotel would lead to all this." "It's not just the hotel," Jade pointed out. "It's you. People are finally seeing what I've known all along. You're brilliant and incredibly busy," Tess sighed, looking at her calendar. "I've hardly seen Hunter all week." As if on cue, her phone buzzed with a text from him. "Miss you, dinner tonight? I have news." Tess smiled and texted back, "Your place 7 p.m. I'll bring dessert." Their relationship had settled into a comfortable rhythm over the past months. Hunter had gradually repaired his relationship with his mother, though things remained somewhat formal between Eleanor and Tess. Thomas Reed had moved to Chicago after the gala incident, much to everyone's relief. That evening, Tess arrived at Hunter's penthouse apartment to find the lights dimmed and candles glowing throughout the space. "What's all this?" she asked as Hunter greeted her with a kiss. "Just felt like making tonight special," he said, taking the bakery box from her hands. "You've been working so hard I thought you deserved some pampering." Dinner was already prepared. Hunter had become quite the cook over the past months, another way he'd surprised Tess. "So what's the news?" Tess asked as they settled at the dining table. "Your text sounded important." Hunter took a deep breath. "I've made a decision about the investment firm. I'm stepping back from day-to-day operations." Tess stared at him. "What? Why? You love your work." "I did," Hunter corrected. "But lately I've been thinking about what I really want to do with my life, the kind of impact I want to make." "And?" Tess prompted, curious where this was going. "And I've decided to start a new foundation," Hunter explained, his eyes bright with excitement. "The Voss Foundation for Arts and Cultural Education will fund arts programs in underserved communities, provide scholarships for minority designers and artists, that sort of thing." Tess was touched. "Hunter, that's wonderful, but what brought this on?" "You did," he said simply. Working with you on the hotel, seeing how you incorporated cultural elements into your designs, it made me realize how important representation is in the arts. How many talented people never get the chance to develop their gifts because they don't have access or resources. He reached across the table for her hand. I want to change that. I want to use my privilege for something meaningful. Tess squeezed his hand, fighting back tears. I'm so proud of you. This is incredible. There's more, Hunter continued. I want you to be part of it. Not just as my girlfriend, but professionally. We need someone with an eye for talent. Someone who understands both the creative and business sides. You want me to work with you? Tess asked, surprised. As a partner, Hunter clarified. Equal say in everything. Of course, you'd still run your design firm. This would be separate. Tess considered the idea. Working professionally with Hunter would be a new challenge, but an exciting one. I'd love to, she said finally, but on one condition. Name it. We include Aunt Maxine on the board, Tess said. She taught art in public schools for 30 years. She knows firsthand what these communities need. Hunter grinned. Done. I was hoping you'd suggest that. She already intimidates me. Might as well make it official. After dinner, they moved to the couch, talking excitedly about plans for the foundation. Hunter had clearly put a lot of thought into it, researching similar organizations and identifying gaps they could fill. You know, Tess said as she curled against him, when I first saw you again at that meeting, I never would have imagined we'd end up here. Planning a foundation together, Hunter asked, stroking her hair. Being happy together, Tess corrected. Trusting each other. I was so determined to hate you, Hunter laughed. You had every right to. I'm still amazed you gave me a second chance. You earned it, Tess said. Not with grand gestures, but with consistent actions. The way you stood up for me with Reed. The way you confronted your mother. The way you listened when I talked about my experiences. Hunter kissed her forehead. I still have a lot to learn. We both do, Tess assured him. That's what makes this work. We're learning together. The next day, Tess met Aunt Maxine for lunch to tell her about the foundation and her role on the board. Well, well, Aunt Maxine said with a knowing smile. Looks like that Voss boy is putting his money where his mouth is. He's changed so much, Auntie, Tess said. Or maybe he's just becoming who he was always meant to be, once he got out from under all those expectations. Aunt Maxine nodded. People can surprise you. But tell me this, is he learning you to feel better about himself? Tess considered the question that had been her aunt's warning from the beginning. No, she said confidently. He's learning with me, and for himself. This foundation wasn't my idea. It came from his own realization about what matters to him. Good, Aunt Maxine said firmly, because charity work to impress a woman doesn't last. But a man who finds his own purpose, that's something real. That weekend, Hunter had arranged a dinner at his parents' house. A rare occurrence that made Tess nervous. Are you sure this is a good idea? She asked as they drove to the Voss mansion. Your mother and I have reached a kind of truce, but a whole evening together. It'll be fine, Hunter assured her. She's really trying, Tess, and there's something I want to tell everyone together. The Voss mansion was as imposing as Tess remembered, but this time Eleanor greeted them at the door herself, instead of sending staff. Hunter, Tess, she said, her smile tight but genuine. Thank you for coming. Dinner was formal but not uncomfortable. Eleanor asked appropriate questions about Tess's work and seemed genuinely interested in her answers. Hunter's father, William, was quieter but polite. After dessert, Hunter cleared his throat. Mom, Dad, I wanted to tell you about a new project I'm starting. He explained about the foundation, his passion evident in every word. Tess watched Eleanor's face carefully, expecting disapproval or at least reservation. Instead, she saw something unexpected. Pride. That sounds wonderful, son, William said when Hunter finished. Very worthwhile. Indeed, Eleanor agreed, though I'm curious what prompted this change of direction. Hunter glanced at Tess, smiling. Let's just say I've been re-evaluating what really matters. Money and status aren't enough anymore. I want to make a difference. Well, Eleanor said, surprising everyone, I think it's an excellent idea. In fact, I might be able to help. You? Hunter asked, clearly shocked. Eleanor looked slightly offended. Is it so hard to believe I might support arts education? I was on the symphony board for 15 years, Hunter. I know, but you assumed I wouldn't approve of the multicultural focus, Eleanor finished for him. Perhaps I've been doing some re-evaluating of my own. She turned to Tess. Ms. Matthews, Tess, our conversation a few months ago made me think about things I'd never questioned before, about privilege, about opportunity. I've been educating myself. Tess was speechless. Hunter looked equally stunned. I have connections at several arts organizations that might be valuable partners for your foundation, Eleanor continued. If you're interested. We'd appreciate that, Tess said, finding her voice. Thank you, Mrs. Voss. Eleanor, please, Hunter's mother said with a small smile. I think it's time we moved past formalities, don't you? Later, as they prepared to leave, Eleanor took Tess aside while Hunter spoke with his father. I want you to know, she said quietly, that I was wrong about you about many things. Thank you for saying that, Tess replied. Hunter has changed since he met you, Eleanor continued. For the better. He has purpose, conviction. Things I always hoped he'd find. She hesitated, then added, I'm sorry for how I treated you, for what I said, for what I offered you that day. I appreciate that, Tess said sincerely, and I'm glad we can move forward. Eleanor nodded. So am I. In the car driving home, Hunter was still processing the evening. I can't believe my mother offered to help with the foundation, and she asked you to call her Eleanor. Tess laughed. People can change, Hunter, even Eleanor Voss. Apparently, Hunter agreed, shaking his head in amazement. You know what this means? What? We need to start planning this foundation for real. My mother doesn't make empty offers. She'll be calling with those contacts by Monday morning. Then we better get to work, Tess said, excited by the challenge ahead. Over the next few weeks, Hunter and Tess balanced their regular jobs with laying the groundwork for the foundation. They secured office space, drafted mission statements, and began reaching out to potential partners. Aunt Maxine was enthusiastically involved, offering practical insights from her years in education. One evening, as they worked late in the foundation's new office space, Hunter watched Tess reviewing grant applications with admiration. You know, he said, we make a good team. Tess looked up with a smile. We do. Who would have thought? I did, Hunter said, suddenly serious. From the moment you walked back into my life, I knew we were meant to be together. I just had to prove I deserved you. Hunter, wait, he said, coming around the desk to stand before her. There's something I need to say. He took her hands, pulling her gently to her feet. Tess Matthews, loving you has made me a better man, not because you fixed me or changed me, but because you made me want to fix myself, to be worthy of you. Tess felt tears forming in her eyes. You are worthy. I hope so, Hunter said softly, because I can't imagine my life without you now. To Tess's surprise, he lowered himself to one knee. I know we've only been together for months, not years. I know some people might think it's too soon, but when you know, you know. He pulled a small velvet box from his pocket, different from the one that had held the pendant. Tess Matthews, I was raised to believe you weren't an option, but loving you became the only one. He opened the box to reveal a stunning diamond ring. Will you marry me? Tess stared at the ring, then at Hunter's hopeful face. All the doubts she'd had, all the walls she'd built to protect herself, had gradually fallen away as Hunter proved himself day after day. Are you sure? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. People will talk. Your mother's friends. Let them talk, Hunter said firmly. The only opinion that matters to me is yours. Tess took a deep breath, her heart full. Then yes, I'll marry you. Hunter slipped the ring onto her finger, then rose to kiss her. They held each other close, both aware of the journey they'd taken to reach this moment. We should call Aunt Maxine, Tess said when they finally broke apart. She'll want to be the first to know. Hunter laughed. She already knows. I asked for her blessing last week. You did? Tess was touched by the gesture. Of course, she's your family. Hunter hesitated. What did she say when you told her about my comment that night, when she first found out who I was? She said what she always says, Tess replied. A man can learn, but make sure he ain't just learning you to feel better about himself. Wise woman, Hunter said. I hope I've proven it was never about that. You have, Tess assured him. Every day. They announced their engagement at a small gathering at Aunt Maxine's house the following weekend. Jade squealed with delight. Caroline Winters offered heartfelt congratulations. Even Eleanor and William Voss attended, bringing an expensive bottle of champagne. To new beginnings, Eleanor toasted, looking directly at Tess with genuine warmth. Later, as the party continued inside, Tess and Hunter stepped out onto Aunt Maxine's porch for a moment alone. Happy? Hunter asked, wrapping his arms around her. More than I ever thought possible, Tess admitted. Especially with you. Hunter chuckled. The one you said you'd never want. And now the only one I'll ever need, Tess replied, leaning up to kiss him. 6 months later, they were married in a beautiful ceremony that blended traditions from both their backgrounds. Aunt Maxine stood beside Tess as her matron of honor. Eleanor, to everyone's surprise, had helped with many of the arrangements, even suggesting they incorporate some of Tess's Caribbean heritage into the celebration. The foundation was flourishing, already funding programs in schools across Texas. Tess's design firm had expanded, with a new focus on creating spaces that celebrated diversity and cultural heritage. Hunter divided his time between his remaining investment responsibilities and the foundation work that had become his passion. On their wedding night, as they danced alone on the rooftop garden of the Ecolux, the place where their journey had really begun, Hunter held Tess close. "I was thinking about what I said that night," he murmured against her hair. "About not dating black women." Tess stiffened slightly. "Hunter, that's in the past." "I know," he said quickly, "but I was thinking about how wrong I was. Not just morally, but practically. I almost missed out on the best thing that ever happened to me because of ignorance and prejudice." Tess relaxed in his arms. "But you learned. You changed." "Because of you," Hunter said. "For yourself," Tess corrected him gently. "I just happened to be the catalyst." Hunter spun her in a slow circle, the city lights twinkling below them. "Do you remember what I said to you that night up here, after the gala? That one day, when the time was right, you'd have a different box for me," Tess recalled with a smile. "And now here we are," Hunter marveled. "Married, starting a foundation together, changing the world in our own small way. Not bad for the girl you said you'd never want," Tess teased. Hunter stopped dancing to look into her eyes. "You're sure you can handle all this?" he asked, echoing the playful question from their fictional future in the premise. Tess grinned, remembering her line. "I can't, but I'm willing to spend the rest of my life learning how." And she kissed him, under the stars, on the rooftop where their story had come full circle. From hurt and rejection to understanding and love. From words that wounded to actions that healed. Because in the end she had chosen to believe in change, in growth, in him, and most importantly, in them, together.